In today's training, we're going to be talking about a life being completely turned around. Like this guy went from broke drug addict to over 400,000 people on YouTube. Actually, almost 500,000 at this point because his channel is blowing up. Without further ado, I want to introduce to you guys my man, Thomas Garrett. What's up, brother?
What's going on? Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. So excited to have you on. So before we even get into it, like, what's the story? How did you go from broke to, being a drug addict to being super successful, man? Like your YouTube channel is blowing up. So yeah, man, let's get right into it.
Me personally, I'm the type that I love stories. I love like deep stories, documentaries, like life stories, memoirs, all that stuff. I'm the type that loves that kind of stuff. When I first learned about this business, it was because I heard about Dave Sharp's story of being a drug addict, and we have similarities in our story. So hopefully this helps kind of show you that it is possible no matter what. I don't know if anyone else is like this, but do you guys remember much about your childhood? I remember so little. And the messed up part is like my grandpa, he was a doctor. He was like the head of our family. And unfortunately, I think I was 2 or 3 years old when he passed away, and he was only 70. I was so young where I didn't really understand it, but I just remember always being at his house. And after that, everything kind of stopped. It kind of hurt our family a lot. Part of the reason my mom and dad ended up getting divorced. So this is what I'm starting to see at a young age, and I'm just like kind of confused, right? My grandpa was like my hero. Like these memories, these small memories I have are always things I did with him. And then all of a sudden he's gone, and I always so kind of upset about that, And I never really realized until I started getting older. I was a bad student too. Like I hated school. I don't think I ever did a piece of homework ever. Basically, I was failing every class, right? I didn't do my work. I ended up getting expelled for like the dumbest reason. So this is the thing. So my mom and her new husband, who I hated, they're always yelling, fighting. It was just toxic environment. Him and my mom picked me up. They don't even know the actual thing that happened. They just heard what the principal said. I didn't tell them about the person choking me, none of that. Like, you're a kid. Of course, you're going to believe the adults, which is kind of my issue. I already didn't like authority, but this is starting to be my issue with authority figures because of what just happened with this. And I'm like, I'm hungry. He's like, well, you can go eat some effing crackers when you get home. And then we get home, for whatever reason, he's just yelling at my mom. And I take the biggest knife out of the kitchen and I just stabbed it through the door and said, stop screaming at my mom, and then walked out the door, walked to my dad's, and I never lived with my mom again. It was just my breaking point. And my dad, me and my brother both ended up moving in with him eventually because it didn't work out between them. So yeah, I got expelled. So now, like in between the school year, I can't get into a school very fast, right? So I had a couple months off where I just played World of Warcraft, and that's where I got super into that game. And my dad struggled with that because he would have to like turn the internet off. I wouldn't go to school. It was bad. So that's like the childhood, right? So that gets you to understand kind of my issue with authority. And my dad really struggled to support me and my brother when we did live with him. And I go into high school, I had truancy issues. I had to go to truancy court. I skipped school. I still never did a piece of homework, which is crazy. So I did that. And then 9th grade, I started using weed, marijuana, right? And 10th grade, I went to a new school, alternative school. At this point, I start getting into kind of poor behavior, like fighting, smoking, stealing, just bad things. Like when I got my license, I would just like use my dad's car and just like go do illegal activities you shouldn't do as a teenager, Unfortunately, the funding for our alternative school was gone and they're closing down. So we found a third high school, another alternative school in Minneapolis. This is when it got bad. Okay, so I met this girl at that new school and her brother went there too. And we were all cool at one point, but for some reason, I don't know what happened, but her brother got mad at me. I felt like in a threatening way, he said something to me or whatever. And I'm like, all right, whatever. But I was with my friends, we were hanging out, doing whatever. I'm like, all right, well, let's go to my school and talk to this kid or whatever, The kid came outside and I think he got spooked or whatever. And he said, you bring these N-words for a safety net. And my friend just, right when he heard that, just punched him in the face and chased him in the school. And I'm just standing there like, oh, this is not what I wanted to happen. But then we just left. And the next day we had like a meeting. They basically said I could still be enrolled in the school, but I can't attend it anymore. I can't be there physically. And I was upset because my dad said, if you get kicked out, you got to go live with your mom. And he sent me away to my mom's house and I was pissed. It kind of helped being away from all that stuff because I wasn't doing any bad stuff with my mom. It really did help in a way. but I was so upset, you know? But my mom at the time was like a manager at this restaurant, and she got me a job there washing dishes, which was my first real job and first time making any money. That whole time where I'm in my mom's basement working, trying to come up with a plan, because I watched my mom struggle. I watched my dad struggle financially. I'm like, I don't want to do that. So this is like the defining moment of my life. I knew I was going to get a certain amount of money for my graduation, because my dad said, if you graduate high school, I'll give you $1,000, right? And I'm like, okay. And basically I moved back to my dad's, and I was still talking to this girl. I graduated, I took that money, I did that, and I basically moved in with my girlfriend. I left home. I moved in with the girl in Chaska. Her family was very rich. This is my first time seeing real money. It ended up, which is crazy, her dad had a drinking problem. He then relied on me to drive her sister. After work, he would go drink and go to the casino. So I basically became a parent at that point, right?
Yeah.
Like, he gave me his gas card. I'm filling up her car. I'm selling it to my buddy. I'm like, here, fill up your tank. Give me half, you know? I'm hustling up money at this point. And unfortunately, when you're in a certain type of industry, let's call it, all your friends become part of that, right? So unfortunately, all of my friends are addicts. And let's just say I took that business to do pretty well, and I moved to Minneapolis with one of my, let's call him a co-CEO of that business. So now let's just fast forward to the point where everything falls apart in that, because when you get women, money, and drugs at a young age, things are gonna go bad. We moved into a new house. It was me, my brother, and 2 friends. And it's now the last month of our 12-month lease at this new house. And this is the one day I had been back in like a month to that house. I get there that night, like I'm drunk on St. Patrick's Day. My friend drove. We sleep in the basement because there's nothing down there. I wake up in the morning. She's like, wake up, the police are here. I'm like, what? And they're like, I can hear upstairs like, police search warrant. I'm like, oh no. The craziest, scariest point of my life. They had dogs and everything, bro. I'm like, oh my God. Because I had other things in the house, but they weren't looking for those other things because, you know, I was an addict, you know, like I'm using these things. Like I could have gone to jail for years at that point, and I didn't. They left. They arrested my friend. He had what's called Suboxone. Basically, I went off the radar. I got rid of my cell phone. I moved in with a friend of mine who had a condo, and I got a job at a lumberyard. My dad does sales at this lumberyard. I worked out in the lumberyard, and I got into like the best shape of my life at this point. And unfortunately, I was on lunch one day, and I saw an old friend of mine, and he had just moved to the same city where this lumberyard was, and he's had heroin one day, and I got back on it. So it got really bad, and I had my first 2 overdoses in 1 month. And the first one, I'm with that friend who moved to the city. Basically, we picked up, we used, and we're driving back, and then I wake up in an ambulance. And then I overdosed again that same month. Woke up in an ambulance again. Same story, dude. Like, it is sad in a way because
it is.
I've also seen a lot of my friends die. So 3 overdoses in 2 months. The last time I was at my house, I did some, and I woke up, I think it was like 7 or 8 hours later, on the floor. Don't know how I woke up. You could say God, you could say whatever you want. It was crazy. I just woke up. I knew I had to get clean. Right? It was bad. So I go to treatment. But yeah, so I went to treatment the first time. I wish I could say it ended there, but bro, it got so bad. And then I met this girl who I truly loved after treatment while I was at the sober house. That's the first time I ever considered marriage. Basically, that relationship went bad, and I used that as a reason to start using. Really, I started using towards the end of the relationship, and it was my first time using again. And I just did a little bit. I start driving, and I wake up in an ambulance. That's just how it goes, right? Bro, I think in total, I got hospitalized 7 or 8 times. And I'm talking also car accidents, bro. Like where I fell asleep at the wheel. I ran into a tree one time. I never hurt anyone. I never hit anyone. And I never got hurt, which is crazy. I tried treatment 2 times. Didn't work. I ended up getting on methadone. And people in the sober community talk crap about methadone because they say, oh, you're going to get high from it. But if you're using heroin, all it is it keeps you from getting sick. You're not getting high, but people abuse it. But it was the only thing that got me clean. And I moved in with my friend, and I was paying $500 a month working in a casino, and I was making like 50, 60K a year. One of my best friends who lived with me in St. Paul passed away. He was 21. Basically, all my close friends at this point now have died. My brother passed away in 2020. I've dealt with so much death, which is so unfortunate. And that's the true most painful part of drugs and alcohol, is that's where you're ending. You're lucky if you could end up in jail. Anyway, so I just felt kind of like I got to do everything on my own. So 2017 is probably when I really started paying attention to YouTube. I've always watched YouTube, but I watched kind of the come up of a lot of these creators. Vine was a thing. And then Vine started dying, and I watched the biggest people on Vine transfer that audience to YouTube. And I had that in my head. And then I started seeing things about drop shipping. That's how I got started into the online world. I started seeing things on YouTube, just watching, and drop shipping was the first business I tried. I made a little bit of money. I think I probably broke even all in all. Probably lost money after spending the money on the courses and stuff. And I think it was Peter Prue. I saw a video of him about Shopify sucks. You should use ClickFunnels for your drop shipping store. But yeah, so he's like, you should use ClickFunnels for your Shopify store. You can make way more money with these one-click upsells. And I'm like, oh, that sounds amazing. But before I ever did that, I went down the ClickFunnels rabbit hole. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, basically I got to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm going to just start doing YouTube. I've watched these videos. I deal cards at a casino. I talk to people all day. I'm like, I could talk to a camera. It's not as easy as it sounds, but once you get into it, it gets easier. It's always scary starting something new though, in general. I took a while. I took probably 6 months to decide, of just like watching courses, testing out ClickFunnels, learning. I'm either going to start YouTube as dropshipping or affiliate marketing. And I saw a video from Spencer Meekum, and that was what swayed my decision. I don't even know if he knows that, but that's what swayed my decision to go to affiliate marketing. And that's how I started YouTube, which is like a long-winded, that was an hour. Wow. I hope people enjoyed that. It was kind of a messed up story about my upbringing.
I think people really do, man. People are still here. They're commenting. So yeah, man, I actually really appreciate you going into that personally. Sure. So thank you.
Okay. Well, let's get into the more positive stuff now. Not that that's not positive or like a positive ending, but yeah, I mean, everyone has negative things in their life, but it's about how you use them. You know, like it's hard for me to deal with all that death, especially from my grandpa to my uncle to my best friends to my brother, like my only brother. Like this stuff is hard. So you just really have to want to live, you know, and want to do better. Because I guess we'll get into the more positive part, because like I didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew I didn't want to struggle financially. I hated my job. I felt like they didn't appreciate me. I was really good at dealing blackjack. They didn't care about me. Right. If I wanted time off, I couldn't get it. So basically, I started YouTube. The first video I ever posted was April 2019. January 2019 is when I started my LLC, which a lot of people don't do, which I'm not like a financial advisor, but it's like, it's better to just get started if it's going to hold you up. Don't let anything hold you up in business or anything. Just do it, you know, and figure it out later, you know? But I did start my LLC before, because I've always been more, I guess you could say, meticulous of how I go about things. So I have to do things a certain way. I have to really thoroughly research it. And I think my brain works a lot like how an artist's brain works, I guess you could say, which isn't good sometimes, but sometimes it is. So basically before I started, so I had like, you know, those 4 months where I basically created content, maybe a month's worth of content. 5 of those videos I made were about ClickFunnels, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And they weren't doing very good. I don't know what to improve because I didn't look at my analytics or anything like that. Posted my first video April 2019. And by the end of 2019, I had 400 subscribers. And a lot of people, especially like in my group, like will complain about having like, oh, I'm a month in, I only got 20 subscribers or whatever. I'm like, that's not bad. That's probably where about I was, you know, the first month. The thing about YouTube is like, it kind of builds on itself.
It's exponential.
Exponential. Yeah. In my first year, well, first 8 months, I had 400 subscribers. I might've ended the year with 500. And I made a video, my 2020 goals and resolutions. And I basically wanted to make $2,000 in passive income, because I think I had made my first dollar already. It took me 6 months, by the way, to make my first dollar. And before that, I had bought a mentor. I had promoted his program, and it didn't work out for me. And I felt like quitting. I'm not going to lie. So like, if you're feeling like, oh, nothing's working for me, I feel like quitting, and you're only a month in, just quit now. Like, no,
I feel like that, bro.
It takes time. Like, you can't be willing to give up after 1 month. If you're going to give up after 1 month, you're not going to make it. You have to just keep going. Look, I'm working a job, and right after the job, I'd get home and I would work on the business until I went to sleep. I would wake up, work a job, endless. Grind. You can definitely do things a lot faster now, especially with short form content, but you have to be willing to put in that work and last, because like I said, 6 months to make $1, and that was with Legendary Marketer. And in February, I think is the first time I heard about COVID. dude. So anyways, I really wanted to quit, but I stuck it out. And luckily, because come March, COVID hit like a ton of bricks, the whole
Yeah.
world, right? Shut everything down. They furloughed all the employees, basically, like put us on a leave or whatever, and we got unemployment. But then like a week later, they emailed us and said they're basically firing everyone. About a month later, I find out my ex-girlfriend is pregnant. I'm like, what? I thought she was kidding. Nothing in my life had scared me that as much as that moment. It's not like, oh, I'm married, I'm happy, I'm ready to have a kid. I didn't want a kid. If I'm being honest with you, I did not want a kid. I thought my life was over. It ended up being the biggest blessing in my life to this day. Crazy how it's like the things you don't expect. You know what I mean? Okay, so I'll start with this. So before the baby, TikTok started being a thing, right? And I started posting on TikTok at the end of 2019. But really, it started blowing up in the beginning of 2020. After I left my job, I really focused on TikTok and using TikTok to promote my YouTube channel. And this is like a hack, you know? So I'm like, that was my whole plan. I'm gonna use TikTok to promote my YouTube channel. So what I did is I'd make a YouTube video, and then on TikTok, I would make a 60-second version of that video. And for each step in the video, I would have a step on TikTok and just briefly explain it. And then at the end of the TikTok, I'd say, watch the full video on my YouTube channel. And it was the best side hustle series is what I started doing. And that blew up. Like TikTok changed the game for me. I think I had like maybe 600 or 700 subscribers at the beginning of February, we'll call it. By the end of 2020, I had like 70,000. That's kind of how I started my business. And it just blew up from there. I took a lot of breaks. When my brother passed away, I think I didn't post for 2 months. I stayed with my daughter and her mom. Things changed a lot from when I moved in with my dad and I was paying him a couple $100s for rent. Then now I bought the house and I just pay for everything. And so it's kind of like paying back for all the stuff because he struggled bad, like financially. He went into debt supporting me and paying for treatment, and same with my grandma. So like, I just felt I don't need to repay him. He doesn't expect it, but I just felt that's the right thing to do.
Man, your story's crazy, insane. And
it is kind of crazy. I can't believe, I hope people got value. I hope I didn't jump over too much. I tried to go like in order, you know?
Yeah, man. I mean, I personally think God has a big plan for you. I mean, I'm a believer personally. So, I mean, I don't know what you believe in or whatever, but that's my personal
There's something
belief
out there for sure. I mean, I don't know what it is. I'm not specific into one spirituality or religion personally, partly because of my upbringing, but I definitely believe there's so many things I can't explain in my life. I just can't.
With everything that happened, man, you had so many opportunities to not be here today. I have a question for you though. What was like the biggest thing like got you to quit? Like, I know you said you're on the methadone and mentally you had to still make a decision.
You want to know what it was, bro?
What was it?
My want for having money and not struggling in life became so important to me that I was willing to do anything. Every day I went to work high, right, at the casino. The first thing I had to do on my way to work is pick up $40 every single day. If I didn't do it, I couldn't work. Because if you guys don't understand, I'm not just trying to get high. Basically, I was just getting well, because you get sick from the withdrawals of heroin, if you guys don't know. I wasn't willing to give up. I think that's another thing. Like, I just wasn't willing to give up. And I think that's part of what made it easier for me to not give up on my business.
Really appreciate you coming on, man. Like, this was awesome. Sure. I'm excited to partner with you. And I think you need to tell your story more, bro. Like, that's powerful. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, everybody. And we'll talk to you guys soon. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye.
God bless everybody.